The first day of spring turned out to be extremely damp and dank. The same gray and boring was the life of a young woman who looked out of the window longingly this early morning. Elizabeth was sitting on the sagging sofa in the tiny kitchen, drinking cold tea and finishing a piece of yesterday's apple pie. Today, she turned 31 years old, and this simple breakfast on the kitchen table was all she could afford at the moment. Before blowing out the candle, she thought about what to wish for and whispered aloud the cherished words, "I want life in our family to get better." The cake seemed tasteless to the birthday girl and the tea tasteless. It used to be different. And it was not at all about the variety of apples or cinnamon. Elizabeth was widowed a year ago. Her husband Steve was knocked down by a pedestrian crossing by some scoundrel when he was returning home from work. It was in the evening, and none of the random passers-by remembered the car's license plate number. Elizabeth found out about the tragedy in the morning when she returned from the night shift. They'd had a happy marriage. The lack of money and eternal debts did not prevent the spouses from sincerely loving each other. They'd been together since high school. The awkward junior in high school named Steve immediately liked a classmate who transferred to the school from another school. For her sake, Steve fell in love with reading books, became interested in classical music, and became interested in sports. Now, it was difficult to recognize Steve because love transformed him. Trying to match his beloved, Steve began to take part in the social life of the school, carefully prepared homework, and stayed up late in the library. But that's not how Steve won Elizabeth's heart. She was always there at a difficult moment, and Elizabeth quickly got used to the fact that she could always rely on him. Unbeknownst to herself, she fell in love with this shy young man who on the day they met could not connect two words. After finishing school, Steve and Elizabeth decided not to break up and entered the same university together. But the trouble is, Steve couldn't keep up his grades and joined the army. Elizabeth was not at all frightened by the difficulties that arose, and she firmly decided to wait for her beloved. The year flew by unnoticed, and when Steve paid his debt to the motherland, he and Elizabeth got married. 9 months later, they had a new baby, who they named Andrew. After a while, Elizabeth was forced to transfer to the correspondence department, and Steve got a job as a handyman at a construction site. At first, everything went like clockwork, and the young family had enough money. They even managed to save money. Everything collapsed in an instant when Steve lost a high-paying job. It turned out that his boss was illegally building a housing complex in the city center. The news that Elizabeth's mother Margaret was seriously ill finally upset their family. Margaret was diagnosed with cancer, and the woman needed an urgent operation. All the savings of their young family went to her treatment and rehabilitation. She even had to sell a house in the village where the family liked to spend weekends. Fortunately, the surgery helped, and Margaret soon went on the mend. But then a new disaster happened, from which their family could not recover. The sudden death of Steve undermined the emotional state of Elizabeth, who did not know how to live on. Together with her husband, confidence in the future finally died in her. Elizabeth held on only for the sake of her son and old mother, who were always there and supported her, and now she was sitting in the kitchen, sipping tea, and thinking about how worthless life is. For many, worthlessness is the lack of money, career, personal life, and so on. But for Elizabeth, worthlessness consisted in a lack of purpose in life. Her aspirations and desires were shattered and broken in a crushing way on the day when she saw her husband's lifeless face. The woman hoped to the last that this was a terrible joke, a stupid medical mistake, and her Steve was actually alive. He will enter the house as before, pick up his son in his arms, and kiss his wife. A single tear rolled down her cheek from the old memories of a once happy life. Now the woman dreamed only of a good life. No, not for herself at all. Andrew and the old mother. That's who Elizabeth was thinking about in the first place. This thought was firmly rooted in her mind a couple of days ago after meeting with a classmate. She met Nancy quite by chance at the supermarket, where she ran in for a minute to get milk and fresh buns with raisins for Andrew. For a moment, she admired the woman who was walking towards her. Her confident, calm gait and the click of her heels made many men turn around. But the woman didn't seem to notice anyone around her. She was concentrating on choosing cheese, fruit, and a jar of caviar, putting the products in her basket. Elizabeth did not immediately recognize the stylishly dressed woman as a mischievous, ungainly girl with whom she sat at the same desk all her school years. No, Nancy was not a universally recognized beauty like Elizabeth, but there was something in her gaze that attracted men like a magnet. Styled hair, scarlet lipstick, expensive perfume, gold jewelry, and the latest iPhone model literally screamed about her solvency. With her manicured fingers, she traced the label on the expensive champagne, intently studying what was written. Then she neatly added the bottle to her purchases. Elizabeth felt embarrassed for her appearance, disheveled hair and dark circles under her eyes. She hurried past so as not to catch Nancy's eye, but accidentally caught the woman with her elbow. "Excuse me," Elizabeth apologized as she walked by, praying to all the gods that Nancy wouldn't recognize her. "It's okay, it happens," Nancy answered mechanically. But after looking closely at the face of a random passerby, she suddenly made a discovery for herself. "Elizabeth? Elizabeth Wilson, it's you! How many years? How many winters? Listen, I'm so glad to see you. Let's sit in a cafe and chat. Oh, only first, to the register. Otherwise, the guard is already looking suspiciously at us," Nancy hastily said in a voice that did not tolerate rejection. Her nimble fingers had already wrapped around Elizabeth's arm, and she was being led to the exit of the supermarket. "Hi, Nancy. You're still the same chatterbox." Elizabeth laughed sincerely for the first time in a long time. After ordering a latte and a tiramisu for two, Nancy talked incessantly about herself and her life. It turned out that she has her own business. She helped wealthy people find good servants who would carefully clean the mansions and keep quiet about what was happening outside their walls. She always liked to talk, and Elizabeth loved to listen. This was the secret of their school friendship. "Yes, that's enough about me. Tell me, how are you doing? Married? Are there any children?" "I was married, and now I'm a widow. An accident a year ago. My husband was hit by a car. Now I live with my mother and son Andrew. He's a smart boy growing up, and he will go to school this year." "God, I'm sorry. I didn't know." Nancy apologized hurriedly, even though she was a giggler, a gossip girl, and even a flirt. But no human emotion was foreign to her. "And are you working?" "No way. Without work experience, they'll only let me clean the floors," Elizabeth replied sharply. Floors. Now that's an idea." Nancy pondered. "Let me help you with the work. I have one customer here, and he urgently needs a maid, and as luck would have it, all the girls are busy." "Well, I don't even know if I can handle it." "Of course you can, because you've been awfully clean since childhood. Besides, he pays a lot of money, and your son is going to school this year, and your mother is old, you said yourself. So think carefully. You will work for a couple of months, and you will run around beauty salons and buy toys for the child." "Well, Nancy, you can even persuade a deaf person." "Okay, I agree," Elizabeth replied, thinking that a good salary would not hurt her in any way. "Believe me, this job will be like a breath of fresh air for you. It's a pleasure to put things in order in such houses. Crystal antiques, expensive paintings are everywhere, and if you try, you'll get some poor guy. Just choose prettier and richer, so you will become a hostess." "What are you saying? After Steve died, I don't even want to look at other men." "That's stupid. You are a young, beautiful woman. You also need to think about yourself, and your son still needs a father. For a boy, the example of a serious and accomplished man is extremely important." "Maybe you're right, but I'm not ready for a relationship yet." "Oh, Lizzie, what would you do without me? Well, never mind. We will quickly direct your life for the better. How nice it is to feel like a fairy godmother." "Nancy, but I have no one to leave my son to. Mom hasn't been feeling well lately, and it will be hard for her to sit with him. What to do? Advise me." I will talk to the customer and explain the whole situation. Perhaps he will allow you to move with your son." "Nan, you're great. I'm so grateful to you," Elizabeth exclaimed happily, feeling that life was beginning to improve. The next few days were agonizing, and waiting was the hardest for the young woman. Not knowing what to do with herself, she was rushing around the apartment like a tiger in a cage. Elizabeth already began to think that there was no mating, and the sorceress named Nancy she just dreamed. When the phone rang in her apartment a few days later, Elizabeth rushed to the phone. Her whole life depended on the decision at the other end of the wire. "Well, Lizzie, congratulations to you. Now you're officially employed. Pack your things. You and your son are moving into John Clark's country house today, and tomorrow morning you start your direct duties." "Thank you, Nancy. From our whole family, thank you." "Don't thank me, don't. I should be thanking you. I've been looking for a friend like you, so come on, don't be sour. But get ready as soon as possible. John Clark doesn't like to wait." But Elizabeth didn't hear anything more. She was like a little girl floating in the clouds. Hurriedly packing her things, she circled around the room and hummed. "Lizzie, it's quite unexpected to see you in such a mood. Has something happened?" Elizabeth's mother asked, sincerely rejoicing for her daughter, who has never smiled since the day her husband died. "Mommy dear, life is getting better. I got a job." "Oh, I'm so happy for you, my daughter. I finally see you having fun. Trust me, Steve wanted you to be happy again. I loved your late husband like my own son, but he left us, and it was very painful for me to watch you depressed." "I'm sorry, Mom. I promise I won't hurt you," Lizzie agreed, realizing that she was bringing pain to her family with prolonged suffering. When a black foreign car picked up Elizabeth and Andrew in the evening, Elizabeth felt like Cinderella, who finally had a chance to go to the royal ball. The country mansion of J. Clark's was like a small medieval castle. A huge park, a small pond, shady alleys, along which it must be so pleasant to walk in good weather, drew Elizabeth's attention. The big gray building in which he and his son were to live did not look creepy and unfriendly at all. The polite and courteous owner of the mansion, a man slightly over 50 years old, was already expecting a new assistant around the house. The former maid could no longer handle her duties for health reasons. After learning that Elizabeth has a child, the man did not mind at all that she moved with her son. Despite his wealth and success in business, he was extremely unhappy. In his youth, he lost the woman he loved, with whom he felt so happy. Envious bridemaids had slandered him, and the bride believed every word. Pride surged in John's heart, and he did not even try to keep his beloved. Years passed, and success and fame quickly came to him, but real, sincere love no longer knocked on his door. He got married twice, but all in vain. None of his wives could give him a long-awaited heir to whom he could transfer all his affairs. Disappointed in women, he plunged headfirst into work, and when he woke up, he realized that he had wasted my best years. He had houses, apartments, bank accounts, but did not have the most important thing, a big, strong, and loving family, which he dreamed of so much. Lizzie and her son immediately took root in his house. Children's laughter, the patter of Andrew's little feet, and Elizabeth's friendly smile filled the old mansion with light and warmth. Elizabeth cooked well and spoiled everyone with fragrant pastries on weekends. In his spare time, John was happy to tinker with the boy, imagining himself as a caring grandfather. He told him interesting stories about his travels, built a toy railway, and even performed the role of a horse, riding a little prankster on his back. From the outside, they looked like a real family. Yes, but it was impossible. Elizabeth's mother always said that her father was a pilot and crashed during an exercise. But one incident made Elizabeth doubt the truthfulness of her mother's words. One day, while cleaning the office, Elizabeth found her childhood photo on the desk. There could be no mistake. The card depicted a girl with an upturned freckled nose and dressed in a pretty canary-colored dress. But why is her picture here? Thinking about it, she got all worked up. Talking about his youth, John Clark mentioned a lover named Margaret, with whom he was divorced by a villainous fate. Was that woman her mother, and Lizzie his daughter? Thoughts did not give her rest, and then Elizabeth decided to invite her mother to the mansion. citing the fact that Andrew missed his beloved grandmother. The very next day, Margaret appeared in the house. At that moment, she still had no idea what kind of surprise fate would give her. "Mommy, tell me the whole truth. Who is my father, and did he die?" "Lizzie, why such questions? I've told you 100 times that he was a pilot." "But then what is my photo doing in John Clark's office?" "I see you've turned pale. You know that name, don't you?" "What did you have in common? Is he really my father?" "Daughter, calm down. Since you know everything, I'll tell you the truth. We really were a wonderful couple once. But after he cheated on me, our wedding didn't take place. I left him and then realized that I was pregnant. Out of anger, I wanted to get rid of the child, but at the last moment I changed my mind. Yes, Lizzie, he's your real father and Andrew's grandfather, but he is a terrible person, and it's better that you never see each other again." "Mom, I just found my father and you want to deprive me of him?" Elizabeth said angrily. "How could you hide the truth from me? He wasn't cheating on you at all. It's just that your girlfriends were jealous of your happiness, so they made it up, and you believed it. Fate itself brought us together." "Actually, it's not fate," a man's voice came from behind. "A year ago, I found out that my ex-lover secretly gave birth to a child from me. I've been looking for you all this time, Lizzie. And believe me, our meeting is not accidental. I am incredibly proud to have such a wonderful daughter and grandson. And you, Margot, forgive me. I was really loyal to you. I was young, stupid, and did not appreciate his happiness. Years have passed, but I still love you. Maybe we still have a chance for happiness. We may not be young anymore, but we have many wonderful moments ahead of us." "Darling, how stupid we were. I also love you more than life," Margaret replied, snuggling up to his sturdy shoulder. That's how fate gave two lovers a chance to be happy again. And Elizabeth has learned a simple truth for herself. There is no need to be afraid to love and to be loved. Love does not tolerate timidity. After all, tomorrow may never come. And she also knew for sure that Steve was looking at her from heaven and blessing her to try to be happy again.